I'm part of Parks Maintenance now. I used to be with Arts and Culture, but I'm still helping out with the grant applications. And then Sven left, over in the corner there, is going to be also helping with the grants this year. And then Eduardo will help us with a lot of our logistical email stuff and that type of thing. We actually have 4 grants this year that we're able to give out. The Reno Arts and Culture Commission is able to give out. One is the Cultural Event Grant. For the Cultural Event Grant, we'll be giving out a total of $64,000. Then we have the project grants. We'll be able to give out $130,000. And then we have the challenge grants. We only have a total of $10,000. And those you can only ask for up to a total of $5,000. And then we have a new one that the commission created, which is called the Incubator Grant. And we'll have $20,000 to give out for that one. And that's for people who it's their first year of ever applying for a grant. It'll help you get started to understand what the Arts and Culture Commission is looking for in these grant applications. So this year we have 4 grants versus the 3 that we've had in the past. Nettie is going to give us a quick rundown on the changes to the grant application. They did make a few minor changes. We're always trying to make it better, and so we've made a few adjustments. And then when we get done with that, Willis will have a little chat about the finances. And then we'll go into fundraising with Jim Kidder. Then we'll go back to the nuts and bolts. Basically, I'll tell you exactly how I want you to turn the grant back into me. And then marketing will be handled by Mary. So I'm just going to turn over to Nettie right now, and she will talk a little bit about the changes that we made to the grant.
Cool. Thank you, Peggy. As Peggy said, I'm Nettie Oliverio. I'm chair of the City of Reno Arts and Culture Commission, and last year's chair of the grants panel, and looks like this year's chair of the grants panel. We'll see. Peggy is absolutely correct. We have 4 now instead of 3 grant areas. And first of all, let me just let you know, it's one of the requirements remains the same, and that is that whatever you do, whatever grant area you are applying under, has to be within the City of Reno. City of Reno grants, right? City of Reno locale makes total sense. So the reason I point this out is if you're thinking about doing something at Bartley Ranch, for instance, Bartley Ranch is not in City of Reno, so don't do that.
Could you tell us the boundaries?
You'll have to go to a map for that because they're really odd. Anybody who's looked at, especially in the Southwest, how the boundaries of City of Reno as opposed to the county are, you got me. But previously, I don't know if it's still the case, there used to be a map in the phone book. Is that?
If you go to reno.gov, you can look it up too.
Yeah.
Reno.gov, City of Reno.
And if it does, give us a call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Washoe County has lots of maps.
Stacy knows. The 4 categories are Challenge, Project, Cultural Event, and Incubator. And Challenge Grant, as Peggy mentioned, has reduced in total amount this year down to a grand total in the pot of $10,000 with a maximum of $5,000 per grant application. A change that we've made to the criteria for the challenge grants is now the only applicable areas are those that are building acquisition or renovation of the facility and equipment. And previously, you could apply for building a cash reserve and endowment, that sort of thing. And we're not doing that with this grant cycle. It will be only building acquisition, renovation of facility, or facility equipment. As always, funds may not be used for operating support, programming, investment speculation, or feasibility studies. And the match is still in force. It's the 2-for-1 match. So for instance, if you were to apply for and successfully receive a $5,000 grant, you would need to raise an additional $10,000 to match that. And then the entire $15,000 would need to go toward the project that you've applied for. And as always, you get the money at the end after you have successfully made the match and successfully completed the project and turned in your paperwork. There's a joke about paperwork. We won't go there. Project grants. We've added $10,000 to the project grant total pot this year. It's $130,000. And in recognition of the fact that when you go for a project grant, these applications are serious business. There's a lot of work involved, as you all know, all of you who have submitted grants. A lot of effort to this. We would like to make it worth your while. If you are an organization that has a budget of $100,000 or over, the total that you can, or I'm sorry, the cutoff is the $100,000, so over $100,000, you can apply for up to $10,000. This is a change from last year where the maximum was $7,500. It's now $10,000 for organizations with an organizational budget of over $100,000. For those of $100,000 and under, the max is $5,000. Again, a change. It used to be $3,500. It's always good to read. My mom said if you can read, you can cook, and I think if you read, you can do a really good grant application as well. The project grants can be for a tiny project, for your full season, for all kinds of things, again, within City of Reno. And the match requirement is 1-to-1. If you receive a $5,000 grant, you've got to match it with $5,000. That entire $10,000 needs to go for that project. Cultural event grants. Total of $64,000 in the pot, and a grant maximum of $5,000 per application. The event must take place in an arts district, that is the downtown Reno River Corridor area, the Truckee River Arts and Culture District, or the UNR Arts and Culture District. And must be free and open to the public. And this is no change. This is the way it always has been, but just reminding you of what the rules are. And Art Town has really encouraged everybody, because a number of the cultural event grants are for Art Town events. Please contact Art Town and secure your date with them before you do your application. Art Town said they are just very, very happy to write you a letter of support to say, yes, indeed, you do have that date secured. And you can include that letter from them with your packet, so that when we're reviewing your grant, we can say, aha, they intend to do it on this date, and they do have that date secured with Art Town. We would greatly appreciate that. Incubator grants. This is new. This is a new area that the Arts and Culture Commission was especially interested in offering this year. Incubator grants are for organizations who are small and who have never before received a grant. You may have applied before and not received, or you may never have applied and obviously not received. But it's specifically for that, for an organization who has never had a grant given by the Arts and Culture Commission. The total in the pot for the incubators is $20,000, and the maximum amount that you can ask for on an incubator grant is $3,000. You can't double dip with these. That is, that if you are asking for an incubator grant, you can't also ask for a project grant or a cultural event grant or a challenge grant. And if, well, it just goes without saying, these are independent grants of each other. Especially on the incubator grant, we really encourage those who are applying for this to take advantage of the guidance of staff and of the commission and others to be able to put together a really good package. We have a couple of CPAs who have agreed to offer assistance with the preparation of this, in the sense of just looking at what it is that organizations are doing, how they're putting their books together, how they are presenting their financials, so that when that package comes back to the panel, it makes sense. It's a really good financial picture of the organization. We find frequently that first-time applicants have a hard time with their financials because you're all busy doing your art and you're not quite getting how you put it down on paper so that it's financially apparent to everybody how you're doing your business. And so we'd encourage you to avail yourself to some of the resources out there to make a really good grant application, because we'd like to give you money, please. As you've been warned in the past, there's a likelihood of a 5% set aside, where in tough budget times, as everybody knows, City of Reno had to retract a little bit of money in the past year and may likely be doing that again. So just be aware when you are filling out your applications, when you're budgeting, how this is going to go as you're creating your application. Be aware of the fact that there may be a 5% off the top that's reduced as the new year gets into play and we know better how our city budgets are. One thing that the folks from Art Town recommended, and I thought it was so good that I wanted to pass it on to all of you, they said, once you've completed your grant application and you've turned it in, don't just toss the other copy in the corner and say, "Shh, I'm done, I don't have to do anything else about this." Rather, use this grant application as a template to then start working on the project that you've applied for. Take this grant application with you when you go out to potential sponsors and show them financially how you intend to put this together. And especially if you do get the grant, you know, what a great pitch to be able to go out to another sponsor and say, "Hey, this is what we did, this is what we put together. City of Reno is going to give us money based on what we provided them. Why don't you help us? Why don't you come on board with us?" So use it as a tool, and consider the fact that as you're creating all of this information, because you are creating a packet of information as you're looking at your organization and what you intend to do stylistically about it, take that and file it away and use it as you are doing other grants and as you're approaching other funders throughout our area. So we hope to be a tool as well as a way to give you a little bit of money. Next coming up on the agenda, and I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has questions. If you don't, we have Mr. Willis.
Oh.
Talking about financials. Speaking of financials.
If he wants to email me at willisa@pioneercenter.com, you can, and I'll send you copies of this. So you can just email me at the Pioneer Center and get this. Basically, what I put together, they wanted me to talk about finance, but the first part of this is actually if you're doing entertainment. If you're going for a grant that you're going to do entertainment with. And so I put together a sheet here that is basically kind of walks you through doing an entertainment event. Of course, your date and times are what you're looking for the very first thing. You know, even before sometimes you hire an entertainer. You have decided you're going to do an event, maybe you haven't even hired the entertainer yet. But you need to have a time and date that you're going to do it, because no facility will be able to help you unless they know when you want to do it. In the Pioneer Center, we do 100 performances a year, so we are booked so heavily that without a date, we can't really move ahead. So they can't give you a date. We don't just go, well, we're thinking about doing an event in July. Well, we need to know what day in July and what your time frame is. So get those things together. Then, as you do a budget, especially when you're doing these grants, the more thorough your budget is, the better it looks to the folks who are reviewing your grants. So you have your entertainment costs. If you're going to, depending on whatever entertainment it is, it could be an actual performance. It could be a nutcracker like we have the peanut cracker, those kind of things. You're looking at your actual entertainment costs, which are your entertainment, in many cases, travel, rooms, food, beverage, and in this case, percentages. And I'm going to mention this stuff just really quickly. When you're hiring actual bigger acts like Steve Martin or stuff that we hire at the Pioneer Center, Brian Adams and that kind of thing, there'll be percentages. So you'll hire the entertainer for like $20,000 or $30,000, but you have to make sure that you understand that when they hit a certain point, they're going to want a percentage over what they actually get. And these are really important things to know when you're doing entertainment, because a lot of people don't realize that till the contract comes. Then they don't pick up on the contract, and then you do the show, and you're doing a settlement. The guy goes, well, we made $70,000, you're paying us $30,000, but we get 50% of everything over that. and all of a sudden your budget doesn't mean anything to anybody because you have not figured that out. So it's really important, those kind of things, especially with the contracts. The facility usage is the rental, and what we do at the Pioneer Center and almost every facility is NAGBOR, Net Adjusted Gross Box Office Receipts. So we will take a percentage over a certain amount. Say you rent the Pioneer for $2,000, well, there'll be a limit on the NAGBOR, but if the NAGBOR is 10%, as soon as you sell $20,000 worth of tickets, you get in percentages with us. But what we do is we cap it. But that's called NAGBOR, and you'll find that at most facilities. And then merchandising is real important when you're doing these kind of events, because nearly everybody you do in the entertainment world now is merchandising, their own CDs or whatever, and there'll be percentages on that. So you need to understand that as the buyer, have a right to a percentage of what they're selling, because you're actually bringing them to a place where they can sell it. And the buyer is always the most important person in the circle. You would like to think that maybe the entertainer was, but there would be no entertainer without a buyer. And there wouldn't be an actual agent or anything in between without the person who's actually putting up the money. So when you buy entertainment, you must realize that you are the most important. It's just like buying a car. They always try to make you feel like you're not the most important part. They try to rush you into the deal in buying a car. They don't want you to leave the thing. And many times when you're buying entertainment, they'll go, well, we've got to know this by tomorrow, or he's going to take another date. That's just a ploy. You need to be very strong when you're buying entertainment. You need to understand that you're in the position with the money. And that is the most. Come on in if you want to hand raise on. Anybody need? Production costs. That's the big bugaboo when you hire an entertainment or doing just special events of any kind, is what it's going to cost to get the thing off the ground. The lights, the sound, tables, chairs, all that kind of stuff. They're very important to get your production costs down. Now at the Pioneer Center, when someone comes to us, we pretty much handle that side of it. I actually, I'm first to talk to you. I go, what are your needs, lights, sound, what do you need, what do you have to get done in that? And we handle that, and we do a lot of that. We do all our shows. I actually handle that up front. But in many cases, you're going somewhere to do a show, and there isn't somebody like the Pioneer there who can do that, so you're the producer, so you have to do it. And then all of a sudden, you're stepping into probably maybe some unknown territory for you. If you don't know lights and sound, you don't know what they're worth, and all that, that can be very daunting. So in this case, if you really don't know, you should get a good production person and not try to do it all yourself. It's always nice to have a good production person working with you. Advertising, which they'll talk to you about later, but advertising is what really brings your people to the event. So it's a cost, but it's actually a cost that generates. And with all that, with your advertising, you've got to have your demographic, you've got to have your ad placements. You have to get all that up front. You have to get that from a professional, like Larry, or somebody who really knows how to place stuff. And that's very important. Insurance is always a huge part of any kind of event. And in this case, there's all kinds of insurances that come down the line. At the Pioneer, you have to furnish us with general liability with you as a named insured. And in our case, we have to have general liability, but then the person who's actually coming in, the entertainer, in many cases, we want them to also give us a policy so that when they're there, if something happens to them, if that's their own fault, they don't sue us. And you all know how insurance companies are nowadays. They just pass it right to the next one. Whenever there's an incident, it starts off, no matter what I get done at the Pioneer Center with insurance, when there's an incident, they always come after me first. And then my insurance company goes, no, I'm not paying. And then they go after the next insurer, and then the next, and the next. And that's how insurance works. So it's really important to know your insurance and what you've got going. Licensing, you need to have your necessary city licenses to do business, and we demand that at the Pioneer, that you actually have a license to do business so you can collect money and disperse it. And also Ascap and Bmi, which a lot of people aren't aware of, which are royalty entities. And when you're hiring, if you go hire a band to play cover music for a dance, you're subject to paying Ascap and Bmi. And a lot of people don't know that. And they don't get after single events very much, but I'm sure like in our town, when they're doing outside performances and stuff like that, there are considerations for Ascap and Bmi. And I tell you what, you want to know what you're doing up front with those guys, because when the event's over and you've done it, they've got you. You have actually done an event, and Ascap and Bmi, they want their money. And they're gonna come after you after the event's over. So that's always a real consideration. And break-even numbers, and this is the most important thing, is when you're, especially when you're doing a grant, you want to have all your costs down in a line, what's going on, get everything down that you can think of. Then you have your ticket prices and your tickets and the amount of tickets you're gonna sell, and you need to put that together and find out what your break-even point is. This will tell you all the time, 100% of the time, if you should even be doing it. And I can't tell you how many people come into the Pioneer Center without doing this. And they get there, and then the show goes on, and they didn't sell enough tickets, and they're losing money, and they want me to take the hit because they can't afford to pay me, right? And that all comes down when you don't know what your break even is. And that's how I learned to do entertainment, was with a really heavy general manager who made me put it all on paper, right down to the last dime. And then if it didn't make money, we didn't do it. And that's what you're gonna find when you do these properly, is that when you do that break-even point, you're gonna go, oh my God, I have to sell 1,200 tickets to break this thing even. Now, so few people think of that when they're doing it. Or I have to sell this many seats at tables on a fundraiser, right? I have to break even, just to break even with the food and to break even with what you're doing. So there's a break even is basically what I look for when I'm doing stuff, and the grants panel does too. They're looking to find out if this thing will actually work. The worst thing that can happen is give money to someone and it doesn't work. Then they're sitting there with that. So this is just a little guide for that. I only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to keep moving here.
Hey, Willis, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What about the state entertainment tax?
State entertainment tax only applies to nonprofits. It does not apply to. If, as a nonprofit, if you hold the money for the event, in other words, you sell the tickets and the money comes into our bank account or a nonprofit's bank account, no tax. Then there's limits. It's 300 seats and above. I think they changed it to 5. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. But 500 seats and above, it's a commercial entity. You pay the tax. But with a nonprofit, we don't have to pay the tax. So we don't have to pay.
If you're holding your event at the Grand Sierra, I'll just pick the Grand Sierra, and they're accepting your revenue, even if you're a nonprofit organization,
You don't pay the tax.
you don't pay the tax.
As long as the nonprofit is holding the money, dispersing the money, and everything's moving through the nonprofit, then there's no tax. But if you're outside of it, I mean, when people come into the Pioneer Center, we're a nonprofit organization. But when commercial producers come in, they have to pay the tax. Because although we're holding the money, it's their piece. It's their actual piece. And they are the ones who are dispersing the money. It's more of who's dispersing the money than actually, and it actually says in the law, it's about holding the money, the ticket revenues, where they land. But that's not the real important piece. But it
But
does.
it's just passing through the box office.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yes. Okay, the second page, and I just put this together. I've had this for a long time. I revamped it a little. And this is just a big checklist for just about everything you could ever want. And if you do a show, it can burn your way through this checklist and check every one of them, you're going to be there. You're going to be real close to having a good event. Some of the most important things, and I won't get into this, is PR and advertising, is what goes out to the public. Don't let anybody, don't ever send anything without your approval. Because you can't believe, I mean, we get it all the time. People come to the Pioneer and the newspaper has the wrong times, the wrong date, the wrong things, and it's because, well, I didn't do that. We just sent it to the newspaper. Well, you've got to know. That's really, really important. Interviews with entertainers is really important, or interviews with anybody. If you're doing a special event out somewhere and you want the press there, you want to get interviews, you've got to ask for entertainers to do that, to get that up front. In other words, there's a lot of things to look at when you're buying entertainment and when you're doing special events. A lot of people don't want to get in front of the TVs for some reason or another. This is a real detailed list. I won't go through it, completely, let's go to the last one, says internal, which is for me, that is actual what I do. And there's stuff there that you need to really look at, is the contract signed and the deposits and what's in the contract. And if you don't like something in the contract, you get on the phone with the person who sent it, and you line it out, and you talk to them, and you initial it. And don't ever think that you can't be in control of the contract. They're all pretty much boilerplate type stuff, and they're meant to be changed, and we change the heck out of them when we do Broadway and stuff. It ends up just crossed out and marked and everywhere. So don't be afraid. You are the buyer. You have the right to get in that contract what you want. And if you don't understand the contract, which it's tough, you can call me. I'm a good contract reader. Or if you have someone in your organization, a lawyer is usually pretty good. They can usually tell you if it's in your best interest to sign it or not. But don't think that you have to just sign it. You know, you can do anything you want with that contract. Radius clauses, which a lot of people don't know about, especially when you're doing a nice little event somewhere and you want it to happen and you've hired someone for $10,000 and then you find out about 2 weeks before the show that he's actually going to play in Lake Tahoe the night before. That's not good. So you always want to make sure you have your radius clauses intact. You want to make sure when you're doing something and the person who's going to be doing it for you is not going to, and you always want at least a month to a month and a half. And on big entertainers, you want a lot more than that. Like in Broadway, we have radius clauses on it where they could get to Sacramento and Salt Lake, but they cannot get into Tahoe or anything with us on certain shows. So those are radius clauses. There's age limits. I like to think that if you're over 90, you might have trouble getting in and enjoying the show. I'm just kidding there. It's 21. It's the bottom end, not the top. Handicap seating is always a big consideration in shows, especially depending on the show that you have. You know, some shows draw more than that, and you have to be prepared for that. In a theater or wherever you're at needs to know what the laws are with handicap, because we have to hold back a certain amount in every price level for handicap, and if we don't, we're in trouble. And if you do a show somewhere and that those people who are selling the tickets for you at Bartley or wherever don't have the proper handicap available, that's a big problem. You really have to think about that before you do a show. I'll go right down here quick. Ticket prices, merchandise, check requests. You always want to know what you're going to do on settlement. Sometimes they won't take a check. I've done shows with Chuck Berry when I was doing Hot August Nights for all those years, and I had to bring $40,000 in $100 bills into his room. And it was scary. It was about as scary as you could get. And sweating bullets with that much money, man, I can tell you that. So you want to know before you get to the point you're going to pay them, you got to know if they're going to take a check or not, or how they want to be paid, because a lot of them do want cash. They really do want cash. Let's see, there's, well, it's all in there. I mean, you can just go down there and kind of check off things. It's basically these lists were done so that you can have a successful event. Page 3 is what we do at the Pioneer Center to get you off and tell you what it's going to cost you to do this show. And I just did an actual, just a mock-up here of what a show like for one day might cost. The rents, this is a commercial show, the rent's $2,200, and then in-house tech and the union boys, and then some stage equipment, lights and stuff. And that's how we start our thing. And it's a good thing to, and if you email me, I'll send you this page, because you can actually plug into this. And when you're doing your own, another event at another venue, you can plug in, all you gotta know is what the labor charges are and what you're doing. You can actually plug in and get your numbers right here. And then you can get the bottom line number and see how many tickets you have to sell to break even. So this is just an overview of how we do it at the Pioneer Center. I thought I'd put it in there. And then the last page here is a detail sheet that we do at the Pioneer Center, just to show you what we do, the detail we go into to do it. If you do this kind of detail on a grant, where, this night I'm going in from this time to this time, and this and that and this and that, that just shows that you have really done your homework when you're doing a special event. We're going to load into the to the venue for our fundraiser at 8 in the morning, and then we're going to have a lunch break at 11, and that's going to be catered, and you have it all online. And the more detail you have, the greater your chances are of getting a grant. When they're really detailed and everything is really, the numbers really look good to everyone, that's where you shine. That's about all I've got right now. As far as, Nettie, can you think of anything else that you would want me to talk about financially? Oh, well, there is one thing. If you're a small group, you need to get a set of books, no matter what. And I really believe in that. And even if it's not QuickBooks, but just some form of Microsoft books. If you're a small nonprofit, a small organization, you need to open up a set of books and get it running. Because that really tells you where you're living at, and tells everybody else when you're doing a grant where you're living at. So that's really important, to have a good set of books. I'm lucky I have a bookkeeper, so I have a person who actually does the books. In small organizations, that doesn't happen. You may have a board, and if you have a board that has a very qualified CPA or something, that's always great to have a person like that on board to do your books for you. So always make sure that you have a good set of books. If you're going to be a nonprofit for any length of time, you're going to have a set of books. You're going to have to fill in you're going to have to put in 990s every year. You're going to have to account for the way you do business. And a lot of folks don't do it right, and they lose their nonprofit status. Any questions?
So can you email these to us?
Yes, yes.
That'd be awesome.
Willis A. at Pioneer Center, and I'll send you them. PioneerCenter.com.
What's
I
an
think it's
ad
in
snipe?
mine.
Oh, a snipe. Snipe's a great thing. A snipe is something you add on to an existing ad. In other words, when we do a Broadway ad that's for Beauty and the Beast, we can snipe on the bottom of it, Legally Blonde. But you can find people, like entities, who will help you sponsor your event. Let's say AT&T helps you sponsor your event. Well, they do a lot of ads. There's nothing wrong with going to them and going, on the bottom of your full page ads for the next 2 weeks, can you do a snipe for me? And the snipe is literally just a piece, goes right across their ad that says your thing's on top of them. You'd be surprised how many will do it for you if you ask. Because this really doesn't take that much extra work to make that snipe and put it onto the ad, right onto the face of the ad.
Great question.
Willis?
Yes.
When we send you an email, what do we ask for?
I will just send you all of them, everything is there. I'll just send you all 4 of the documents.
Willis, would you spell out that email address, please, the first part?
It's Willis, Willis, A,
I-L-L-I-S.
IS, as in Sam, A, Willis A, at pioneercenter.com.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you all. Good luck with your grant.
Good job.
Actually, the snipe comment was a perfect segue, because we have coming up now Jim Kidder. And Jim is a new commissioner on the commission, and he, in conversation one day, he brought up a really terrific fundraising application that he had worked on with an organization that he's a part of. And we got to talking about the fact that, of course, all of us, whenever we do anything production-wise, we're always needing more money than we're going to get from a grant. And the question is, how do we take the money that we receive from the grant and then parlay it into something more that's ultimately going to enable us to do the show we want to do, hang the work that we want to hang, whatever. And so Jim very kindly offered to come and tell us about snipes and other things that we can do to add to our bottom line.
Yesterday, I found the perfect introduction to my remarks, because when I picked up the newspaper with the Life section, they had an excellent article on Bruca Theater. And in that, they said that co-founder Scott Beers said at one time, and I quote, "At the time, all the productions were all out of my own pocket." Does that sound familiar? So it was really like, okay, you're going to spend $2,000 on this show. He responded, "You've got to make $2,200. All of the activities that we're involved in get revenue from one of 4 sources. You get it from sales. It can be tickets, it can be a painting, it can be a CD, But sales does not fill the bill. I don't think there's a single organization here, or not here, like the Reno Philharmonic, who finds that ticket sales will cover the price of the concert. In fact, with the Reno Philharmonic, if they relied only on ticket sales, they'd only cover roughly half the cost of their concerts. So they'd have to reduce the orchestra by half and the staff by half. So tickets will not do it. So therefore, people go out and you seek donations. The third, contracts or grants. That's the only way in which our organizations survive. Now, I've been with the Reno Jazz Orchestra for a long period of time. It started some 10 years ago when a lot of musicians found that casinos, because of economic times, no longer wanted live musicians, they wanted recordings. And so the tape that went in replaced these musicians. Most of them found other jobs in the community but still wanted to play, and so they formed a rehearsal band more than 10 years ago. But a rehearsal band just plays to itself, and so they began branching out and they played more and more concerts. Till today, they play roughly 10 concerts a year. But each concert costs about $5,000. That's $50,000 they've got to get in ticket sales. Big deal. Or if not ticket sales, donations, or grants and contracts. So as an example of contracts, just last Saturday, they were the band for St. Mary's Foundation Big Gala fundraiser. But there are only so many contracts that they can find. Plus, they'd much rather play dance, they'd much rather play jazz than dance music. And the result is, they looked, ticket sales, we can't increase the price of the ticket sales. And in fact, after several of our concerts years ago, I devised a questionnaire that we sent out to the audience. And in it, we pointed out that we had 19 musicians, now it's 17, but we have 19 musicians, a couple people to do the setup, plus we have mailing costs, administrative costs, etc. And so what did our audience think was a fair price to pay for a ticket? And we listed $35, $25, $10, free. Over 40% every time we did the survey said free. They loved the concert, but they wanted it to be free. So the Reno Jazz Orchestra recognized, like many organizations, you're not going to make money or cover your costs simply by charging more for tickets, because the more you charge for tickets, the fewer you will sell. So they looked at donations. They realized that they had several $1,000s in donations, but that was an area they could hit. But then as the economy began to go into the tank, they realized that help from foundations and even contracts was probably problematic. So they began to think, how could they get more donations? So they formed a group called the Band of 100. And they went out to people who had attended concerts, sent them a letter, and said, would you like to be a member of our Band 100? We're trying to get 100 people to pay $100 a year for $10,000.
Needs and publicity and evaluation. Then you can have resumes of your key people who are a part of this grant application. We would prefer that each resume be only 1 page long. I know it's really hard for a lot of people because they have so much to give us, but really 1 page really makes it the best for all of us. So you've got your resumes, and then if you have done an evaluation of your concert or your performance, put the results of those evaluations in this grant application, because the commission is really interested in finding out how what you did before was perceived by the public. And then we also do need the cue sheet for all your supplemental information, which is your CD, your DVD, your photos, any of those things. You need to have a cue sheet. This group, this pack, I need to have 10 copies, 1 original and 9 copies. And then make sure you either paper clip it or alligator. Do not staple it, do not bind it, don't do anything fancy. Do not add a cover letter. Do not add the score sheet that is on the application. This is all we want to see. Then we need 1 copy of this supplemental information, and that can be attached to the original that you're going to turn into us, which is your audit or your financial statement, your IRS letter showing that you are a nonprofit, because you can't apply for these grants if you're not a nonprofit. I need listed your board of directors, then any PR material that you want to show us, then letters, if you have any collaborating partners, those letters would go in this packet. Okay, yeah, turn the page here. Facility rental costs. This is something new that the commission has asked for. They want to have documentation of exactly how much it's going to cost for you to use your facility. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to get a letter from wherever you're going to put your performance. Whether, if it's going to be at Wingfield Park, it's a piece of cake. I'll give you a copy of the contract. It'll show you everything that's on there. If you're at McKinley, we do the same thing. I'm sure it's the same thing at UNR or the theaters at TMCC. And then we need a copy of the fiscal budget portion of the 990 form. Almost all of you guys fill out a 990. I know there are some, when you're a really, really small organization, you don't have to fill out a 990, but then we do need to have a copy of your bank statement. This one we only need one copy of, and that one would be attached to the original. So it's really simple, but I really hope that you guys can make sure you put it together in that order. Then the other question was for the cultural event grant. Here's actually a list of where you can have your performance in order to qualify for the cultural event grant. There are 3 different places. There is the Arts and Culture District, it's UNR, and then it's the, I just went blank on the third one. Truckee River Corridor. So it actually kind of lists out exactly where those areas are. So if you're doing a cultural event grant, you must stay within those boundaries or you'll be thrown out. And then all the rest just have to be done in the city of Reno, which means Bartley Ranch, the Sparks Marina, Rancho San Rafael are not eligible. So don't look at those places to try and do a grant for the city of Reno. That's really all I have, unless you have any questions.
So, for the university, what would you like to see for the financial statement?
UNR and TMCC are the only ones that are special. Yeah, and I don't have to have that for you guys, but that's because of where you were at. So we're okay on that, and you guys, I don't think, have ever given us one, and we've been okay with that. But everybody else does have to give us that financial.
Thank you.
For the board of directors, do you just want the names, or do you want their affiliations? Do you want any other information, or just?
You know, we basically need the list of the board. A lot of times we'll get just a 1 or 2 line of who they are, what they work, what their knowledge base is. And it helps the commission, especially if it's somebody new that they've never heard of. It just gives them a background.
So for all these grants, you can't have anything in June, is that correct?
Well, you can, but it would be June 2012, because all these grants are from July 1, 2011 through June 30th, 2012. That's the grant period. So anything you're going to do in June, it's for June of 2012.
Well, the film festival is in June, and we got a grant.
Right, but yours is this fiscal year right now.
Right.
Right, yeah. So it's just our fiscal year. So what you're applying for now is for July 1st, 2010 through, did I say 2000, or 2011? Because we're going into July 1st, 2011 through June 30th, 2012.
And I know what Mary Ellen is addressing, because we did change the dates on that. What we were endeavoring to do, and you've given us our exception here. What we were endeavoring to do was to get paperwork in before the end of the fiscal year for City of Reno, so that there's not all this big scramble. And so I would say go ahead and put in your app for the June activity.
The timeline does say May 30th.
Yeah, it does.
So
Yeah.
Oh, you guys changed that then?
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
We did.
So I was mistaken. I didn't know that change happened.
Unfortunately, just sort of this evaluation sheet, we should provide evaluations of events that we have done in the past.
Yeah, if you have done evaluations in the past, you should include some of those outcomes so that the grant commission understands, you know, maybe this is where we started, these were the evaluations we got, this is what we've done to change it to make it better.
Oh, okay, so it will be okay if I also provide for some evaluations I want to get the evaluation forms that I want to provide for the next event.
Yeah, and if you've got an evaluation form for this year, include a copy of that so they know that you're planning on doing another evaluation. Yeah.
You want like 3 or 4, you don't want.
No, you could basically give us a copy of the evaluation and then a summary, the results that you got of the evaluation. Yeah. Anything else? All right.
In that case, we have our marketing guru, Larry DeVincenzi. You probably know that one of the committees of the commission is the marketing committee. And we have a group of very talented marketing professionals who are part of that, who are working toward providing you with some more marketing tools. And so that's what
Who have no money, so there's not much we can do to help spend any money on you. But we got together and decided that what we could do is to provide you with some very brief insights. There's a one sheet I think that may have gone around already. If
right
not, here they come. Brief marketing toolkit ideas that you'll have to think about as you march forward with no money, a desire in your heart for a great program or an event, and a hard task of meeting all of the financials in order to get everybody in the door to make this thing break even. But marketing is an essential part of what we need to do, and so without really too much thought, you're going to have to do some print. We always encourage people to try to do it on recycled paper with soy inks and be very good about that. Try not to overprint. There's a checklist here of brochures, posters, flyers, postcards, invitations. Plan on those in your expenses when you're going forward and asking for your grant money. Word of mouth we love right now because it's cheap and it works. And I would highly recommend that you leverage as much word of mouth in your campaign as you possibly can. And that includes emails, we think, email campaigns from you. Referral programs for current ticket holders, that's a great idea. Asking board members to sell tickets, if you're not doing that actively, you need to do it more actively and actually demand that they do and get nasty about it. Subscriber parties, volunteers, actors, artists, musicians, crew. See and so the social media tips that we have below, which is the next category, social media. Lots of topics around this. How much do you engage? How much do you not engage? How much do you do? How much works? How much doesn't? Keep the conversation going about your event. There's certainly a lot of inexpensive ways to get on Facebook for RSVPs or direct them to an RSVP system online like Eventbrite if you haven't seen that sort of a thing. And there are ways to help fulfill your ticket sales through your marketing that will help you track where your marketing is successful as well as make your ticket acquisition easy to do. Social media, don't forget guys, Facebook, Twitter, MySpace. Nobody's really on MySpace. Who's on MySpace anymore? No. I would cross MySpace off of. Flickr, if you don't know what Flickr is, it's an image sharing program that is very inexpensive to use. You can get your own stream of images for your nonprofit, for your event. You can tag people much like you can in other ways with those, and it helps with your search engine optimization, and it brings up your visibility in the marketplace in general. YouTube, which of course a picture says 1,000 words, so if you can post those short little videos for people to see from last year's program, I don't know if it would be part of the submission. Could it be? Absolutely. A URL could be added as part of the submission, which would be awesome for them. They would probably love to get out of there and see some video while you're going through this. And of course, the power of blogs right now. If you have friends who have blogs, if you can start a blog, write about your event, get as much press out there for free as you can. Advertising still works. Willis, I think, said it well. It's one of the ways that you can spend money for advertising is good that will make money. But it has to be good advertising, and not everybody's capable of that by themselves. So sometimes getting somebody to volunteer for you to help you with a campaign or an expert that you pay a little bit of money to is a good thing. Electronic TV, radio, print, newspapers, and magazines, online, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, mobile marketing is here to stay. So look into those and ask yourself, how can I leverage these to my best advantage? You can get co-sponsorships with some radio stations. You can give away tickets. Just lots of ways that you can sort of engage the media and get them to participate. It takes a lot of work, but it helps. Publicity, I still think, is the strongest thing of all, and getting out there, making sure that you are seen in all of the community calendars, that you have a press release that has been submitted to all of the news resources. We've given you a list on the back of this page, about halfway down, of some of the online calendars. The most important calendar of all is Arts for Nevada. We really, really need to get you guys using that as your main resource for all of your events, and to let us know. So we're integrating a lot of other sort of plans with the Arts for Nevada calendar. So the more of you that we can get you to dump in there and share that information with the community, the more we can get that out to a broader group all the time. So Please help us do that. But don't forget rgj.com, Reno News and Review. Downtown Makeover, if you don't know about it, downtownmakeover.com, about 20,000 readers a month. KUNR, Reno.com, RSCVA, must get password. Do we post that, or can they get on with the password?
They can get on with their own password.
They can get on with their own password?
Yeah, they
Okay,
just
great.
have to request
Great,
it.
okay,
Yeah.
so get a password. Eventful Gonna Happen, which has a great readership here in town, out in Reno, and DIBS. All of those are, if you haven't seen them, some mobile applications, some resources where you should be listing your events, because people will see them there, and they, believe it or not, it increases response. And then at the very top of the page, some of our very smart folks gave you some tips for writing press releases. I am not a PR person, I'm not going to go over them, but please do read them and take them into advisement. I think that they're probably very sound and wise. And most importantly, get your calendars out now, because in February on the 11th, which is a Friday, from 11:30 until brown bag lunch, we're going to start having conversations with all of our group folks to help you out with specific problems that you're having in your marketing challenges. Or if you just want to have some advice or you want to have some feedback on stuff, we're going to be around the table here. So please come see us again. It starts on February 11th. I think we're going to do it every 2 months or something like that. We're going to keep these sort of regular conversations going with you and do what we can to help, because we can't give you money.
What time is that on February?
11:30 in the morning to 1:30 in the afternoon, brown bag lunch. So please come and join us. We'd love to have you. That's it.
All right. Grant applications online, we download them that way?
Yeah, grant applications, go to reno.gov, go to Parks and Recreation, Arts and Culture, and then you'll see the grants. And they're all four there. You can actually type online, print them out, etc. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible. It actually works, because that's how I did my fake one. So if I can do it, you can do it.
They still need to be submitted.
You do need by paper, yeah, because you have to give us the 9 plus the 1. We need 10 copies, yeah. But you can actually type it all online, save it on your, and keep coming back to it, which makes it really nice and easy. And then one thing I forgot to say, for your DVDs, CDs, 3 minutes is ideal, 10 minutes is max. Don't give us something that's 40 minutes long and tell us to speed into it 10 minutes. We have really old equipment, and we usually can't get there. And by the time we even get close, our commission says that's done, we're done. So we don't even see your good stuff. So give me 3 minutes is ideal. If you have to give more, up to 10, but it needs to start right off at the beginning. Okay? I don't know if anybody has any other questions. That's our presentation. Go home. Oh, there's a question.
Well, when I started doing this, paperwork at the end to turn in. This is only the beginning. Would you like to address what you need to do at the end to actually get the money?
Oh,
The
yeah.
final paperwork?
At the end, after your event is over, you do need to turn in information about your budget, how much you spent, and ask for the funding. If you don't ask for us to give you the money, you're never going to get it. So after your event is over, you need to send a letter to us here at McKinley, and then we're able to actually generate the funds for you guys. You always get paid after the event, not beforehand.
And you have to give PR materials, budget,
Right.
summary of attendance.
Yeah, and it'll actually be in the letter that you get and the contract that you guys actually sign. Once it's been approved by council, you'll actually have to come by and sign a contract, and you'll get a copy of it, and it'll actually list out all of those things. And as soon as you're done, like the very next day, you should be sending us that letter. Because it generally takes 3 to 4 weeks for us to generate the funds. So don't wait. Especially if there's a 5% set aside. We don't want anyone to lose their money. Yeah.
Jim, you had a comment?
Yes. We've gone through what you do now, and we've gone through how you get the money. But in order to get the money, you have to remember that you're getting the money for putting on the performance that you were funded for by the commission. We've spent 2 meetings, 2 months of meetings this year, going back over 2 organizations who asked for money and then during the course of the year changed their program and wanted to see if they could still be funded for their programs. And we declined both of those, because when the commission looks at all of your requests, you're competing against everyone else in this room. And it's not fair to an organization to all of a sudden who won in that round to say, well, we couldn't come up with the money or the time and the place or the performers, so we've changed what we're going to do. That cannot happen. So whatever you say in your grant, that's what you're funded for. There can be some changes like the venue for one reason or another, but they have to be very, very modest changes. If you make major changes or even sort of major minor changes, the commission probably will not fund that grant. So when you go in to pick up the check, you will find that it has not been approved. And that's to say, put together a good grant, and then like Willa said, carry it with you everywhere to remind you what you have to do on the day that you're funded.
Thank you. Any more questions?
All right, make sure you did sign in, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Have a grant